I have cancer. We discovered it when I had a too long put off colonoscopy in June of 2024. I'd heard bad things, and I knew a man who bled so much after his that it could have killed him. He got into serious trouble. So I chickened out until I started having bowel issues. We'll just leave it at that. There were a couple of accidents while I was taking my morning walks, which I suppose is more embarrassing to admit than the fact that I might have been bleeding after a colonoscopy. I went through the prep, 48 hours of the stuff because I'm diabetic. Yikes! I had at least one accident in that too, but you almost expect that. The day came and everyone involved couldn't have been nicer. Let me digress for just a second to follow up on that, because through all of this, the people, the nurses, the doctors, the staff, everyone couldn't have been nicer. Not that I expected otherwise. I mean, what's in it for them to not be nice to me? Anyway, they knocked me out for the colonoscopy, and when they brought me back, the doctor came to talk to me and my wife, Chris. Something got in his way. There was a mass that kept him from getting too far in the colonoscopy. Here's photographic evidence. He sent a piece off for biopsy. 2 days later, he called with the results. Adenocarcinoma, a common form of cancer. He set me up with an oncologist and sent me for a CT scan to make sure this was all it was. To cope, we called it Dino. A week after that, we met the oncologist. Bad news. Bad news. The cancer had metastasized to my liver. He was pretty dour. We were pretty dour. But he wanted to send us to surgeons at the University of Kentucky to see if they had any ideas. We didn't call it Dino much after that. The oncologist sent us to University of Kentucky Markey Cancer Center to talk with, in his words, those young cowboys over there. He said the docs at UK were younger, may know more than he about the latest possibilities for my cancer. We met with Dr. Kavnar. He had gone to schools in New York, did a fellowship at Memorial Sloan Kettering, one of the best cancer hospitals in the country. That gave me a lot of hope. He looked over the scans and said, "Oh, I've seen worse than this. This is manageable." Since then, I've been telling everyone that I'm holding him to the manageable part. He outlined a program for us that would use chemotherapy to try to shrink the tumors and then surgically remove them. He said, with luck, I might be clear within a year. We were left much more hopeful than when we had talked to the oncologist. And to his credit, Dr. Camp, the oncologist, apologized when we saw him the next time for reacting so strongly and so quickly. As I've gotten to know him a little, he seems to be one of those ready, fire, aim types, so it's understandable. We learned later that the evening after we saw Dr. Kavnar, he texted Dr. Camp and asked how soon he could get me started on a chemo regimen. These people don't mess around. It's one of the things we've been most grateful for in all of this. So, and this has sort of become the point of this video, here's what happens. Every other Tuesday, I arrive at the Lexington Clinic, University of Kentucky, Markey Cancer Center at Turfland. Turfland used to be a shopping mall. They tore it down as shopping malls died, except for the Dillard store, which the University of Kentucky remodeled into this lovely clinic. It's great because I don't have to deal with the nightmare that is campus parking on a regular basis. Since I have a port surgically installed, they poke into that and draw blood. Once the lab work is done, I see Dr. Camp, the oncologist. He catches up on how I've been feeling, looks over the lab results, and decides whether I'm fit to get the treatment that week. I had to skip a couple of times because some white blood cells weren't quite hardy enough to stand the punishment. Once I get the okay, I have to take a fistful of pills. There's a steroid in there, and some Benadryl, and I don't really know what else. Then I have to wait a half hour. I bring snacks and reading material on my phone and my tablet so I can have music or games or movies if I want. I say it's kind of like packing to take a toddler out. There's a TV in the room, but so far I haven't figured out their system and only seem to tune in to Star Trek reruns. So it could be worse. After waiting on the pills for that half hour, I get hooked up to the first drip. That's another half hour. Fortunately, the machines that regulate the drips have batteries, so I can unplug them and toddle off to the men's room if needed. The nurses are wonderful. They offer blankets. One of the drugs gives me chills. They offer snacks, drinks if I need. Then on to the double bagger. 2 substances that take 2 hours to get into me. That's when I sometimes take a nap. After that, I'm disconnected from the in-room gear and connected to a portable pump that I take home. It's a 46-hour endeavor, and the thing pumps stuff into me 3 or 4 times a minute and makes a noise when it does. That noise drives Chris crazy. She says it sounds like a phone ringing, and I guess it sort of does. I get used to it, and sometimes I jump if I haven't heard it go off in a while. She usually sleeps in the guest room on the nights I have this thing. The 46 hours is up on Thursday. Then I go back to the clinic and get free of the pump, the lines, and the needle in my port. Then begins my week of recovery. Most weeks I can handle up until Thursday night, and then I'm pretty well ready to go to bed till Sunday or Monday. Seems longer each time as the cumulative effects of the treatments pile up. So here we are in early September. Come mid-October, I'll go in and get shoved in a tube for an MRI and into another partial tube for a CT scan, and 2 surgeons will decide whether this chemotherapy regimen has shrunk the tumors in my colon and on my liver enough to go in and surgically remove them. Then there may be some more chemo after that to decide that we've gotten rid of everything. Right now, fingers are crossed. There's a lot of people praying for me all over this country. I know that. And I know that God is good and His answer will be the right one, whether it's yes, no, or not now. Stay tuned.